Hi everyone, I'm Kancho Albert Venter, and today we're going to have a look at knife training. What we're going to do is we're going to adapt some of the karate techniques into knife techniques, whereafter we are going to have a look at the two katas, the slashing and the stabbing kata. Now the question you may have is, why should you train with weapons? If you are already skilled as an open-hand traditional fighter, why should you train with them? And the answer is quite simple. You cannot defend yourself against a weapon that you do not understand. Training with the weapon, getting to know the weapon or becoming intimate with the weapon will make your ability to defend yourself against this weapon much, much greater. Before we begin this video, please hit the like, subscribe and notification button so you can always be informed of all of our new and upcoming videos. Now, as with any martial arts, there's a whole lot of rules involved when training with knives. But we're going to have a look at 5 of these rules. The first rule is to keep a safe distance. So I need to stay out of reach of my opponent that has the knife. If we both have knives, I still need to keep a safe distance. The closer I get, the more to a 50-50 fight it gets, and that means that both of us will be stabbed or slashed. I don't want to get injured, so I want to stay in control of the fight. If I'm in control of the distance, I've already taken the first step of conquering my opponent. The second rule is not to overextend. I don't want to give my body parts to him so he can stab and slash it. I also don't want to keep my weapon too close to me. I want to keep it just right so that I can have a quick response or quick reflex on defending and striking back. The third rule is don't telegraph what you're about to do. So don't give away your intentions. It's exactly the same as floor kumite. I don't want my opponent to know what I'm about to do. I want it to be a surprise. I want to catch him off guard. I want to break his balance. The fourth rule, always keep your blade as sharp as possible. The sharper the blade, the greater my chance of survival. And the fifth and final rule for today is that when you do strike, make sure your stabs and slashes are effective. Knife fights don't last very long, as with any edged fighting. No longer than 3 seconds. If it goes longer than that, neither of you are experts and know what you're doing. So you need to be very sure that your stabs and slashes are as effective as possible. Now, there are dangers to knife fighting. The first danger is, I don't know the skill level of the guy who's approaching me with a knife. So I'm not going to try and take his knife away from him. I do not know who he is. I do not know how many hours of training he's been doing with his weapon. I'm not going to take that chance. If you're stabbed and slashed, the damage is permanent, not just physically, but psychologically. And you stand a good chance of being maimed or have a disability for the rest of your life. So don't take this very lightly. If you're approached with a knife, your first action should be to try and get away or move out of the dangerous situation. If you have no other alternative, then you engage. Now, in general, there are 3 ways in which I can attack my opponent, or 3 different strikes that I can do. The first strike is slashing or cutting. That is when I use the bigger part of the blade to inflict a cutting wound. The second one is stabbing. It is a smaller wound, but I can penetrate my enemy much greater. The third one is ripping. Now ripping is when I put the flat side of the blade against my opponent and scratches. And in a way, this creates more pain than stabbing and slashing. Now, ripping is what I would usually do just to tell the guy, look, back off. So let's start with the first karate technique that we are going to convert into a knife fighting technique, which is called Kazamazuki punch. We'll just put the knife in our hands, and from here it'll be a straightforward stab or slash. So we'll call this the Kazami stab or slash. So the blade is in my hand, I'll go straight forward as quickly as I can, there and back. So it'll be 1, 2, and 3. Always coming back to the correct fighting posture. The second technique that we will be converting is Gyakuzuki. Now Gyakuzuki is a backhand strike, a reversed punch. So from there, we'll take the knife and do a straightforward stab, slash, or slash. Moving on to the next one, which is Shuto Uki, over there, we'll convert it from there. So this stab or slash will come from the side. Much as I would do Shuto Uki, it'll be stab or a slash, or even straight downward stab. Looking at Haito Uchi, which is a invert strike with the hand, crescent hand, it'll look something like this. Or Gyaku Haito. Stab in or slashing. Taking a look at Aga Uki. Now Aga Uki is usually performed in this manner, but can be converted into a knife technique as an upward stab or a slash, followed up by a stab. Looking at Uchi-Uki, which is done like this, can be converted into a stab or a slash. Moving on to Soto-Uki, which is done like this, converted into a knife stabbing and slashing technique, it will look like this. Stab, slash. Now with Gerambarai, which is usually performed like this, it can be done with a knife like this. Stab, slash. The final one for tonight is Sukui Uki. It can be converted into a stab or a slash. Now we had a look at how you can convert most of your karate techniques into knife stabbing and slashing techniques. But it's also important to realize that you do have to have a multiple of follow-ups when you are in an actual knife fight. So if I were to decide to use the Aga strike, I cannot just stop there. I have to continue with 4 or 5 additional stabs and slashes to make my attack as lethal as possible. So if I were to execute it here, I need to follow up. With the Shuto strike, as I move forward into a Shuto strike, either for the neck or lower body, the follow-up will look something like this. The more you train with your weapon, the more familiar you'll become with the weight, balance, and accuracy of cut. One kata that we do practice with, not just the knives, but with the swords as well, is the clock training. Now, I'll do this one cutting first, and then we'll go onto the stabbing kata. So, starting with the cutting kata, it'll look something like this. Moving on to the stabbing kata, it'll look something like this. The whole idea is that as I move through these katas, with the slashing one, I need to keep my mind on the edge of the weapon, so that as my blade's moving, I am sure that every move delivers a very accurate cut as I go through this kata. Now this one I can end with a counter slash, or I can end with a quick stab. Stabbing kata is to keep my mind on the point of my blade. So every stab that I deliver must be accurate and effective. So my mindset will be towards that. As I move through this kata, getting my body used to move in different and strange ways to get the blade pointed up at various angles. Doing the kata with the sword is exactly the same. The cutting kata. The stabbing kata. Now, whenever you fight with edged weapons, you are going to get into a situation where you have to manipulate your body in strange ways to get that stab or cut accurately delivered. So, as you train the kata, you'll realize that some of these stabs are quite awkward. But the more you train them, the easier they get. Any form of fighting is all about knowledge and confidence. So, if I were to engage in empty-handed fighting, because of all the hours that I've trained, I have confidence. So that confidence boosts me and encourages me to do my best and eventually win. The more I train with weapons, the more confidence I have. Not too much, just enough to keep me alive and have me walking out as the victor. We're going to move from here and look at the footwork. Now, the footwork that you use on the competition floor as a fighting karateka can also be used in knife fighting. The one thing you do not want to do is stand still. No. You want to be moving all around. He's going to approach you, you're going to keep your distance. He's going to retreat, you're going to maintain the distance. He's going to move to the side, I'm going to block him this way. I'm going to block him this way. So, the techniques that you use on the fighting floor are extremely effective in knife fighting. So I can move here, change my legs maybe. But I keep agile, light on the floor, and ready to either attack or run. Well, okay, we had a look at some of the karate techniques, strikes and blocks that we converted into knife stabbing and slashing techniques. And to be honest, all of this is limited to your own imagination. You can take any technique that you would have learned and convert it into a weapons or a knife fighting technique. Many to most of the techniques that you've learned have already prepared you to make the conversion from open hand fighting to knife hand fighting. And it is important that you always experiment and train with all sorts of weapons. Not only will it boost your confidence, but it will make your ability to defend yourself against it so much greater. Please remember, like always, training with edged weapons are dangerous. And if you're a novice, the biggest danger in any fight is not the opponent, but you yourself. So, in the beginning, I would advise training with the rubber or the wooden blades. But if you feel comfortable training with an edged weapon, that is completely up to you. But be safe.